So a couple of years ago, I lost $15,000 that almost just completely wiped me out. Okay. And this is something that I can laugh about now, but at the time it was completely devastating. And I want to just make sure that you guys don't make the same mistake. And by the way, this is a $15,000 lead gen deal that I just don't want you guys to do the same thing. So I'm going to tell you what the niche is. I'm going to tell you all about the deal, where I went wrong, what I did wrong, and what I would have done differently, because I would have done a lot of things. And at the time, because I wasn't making that much money and I was running on thin margins and all these different things, because I had overhead and I had new employees, it really killed me. And it was one of the things that like kind of got me started into debt, or rather it made it worse. Okay. So the niche was basement waterproofing. And if you guys have heard me talk about this before, when I discovered this niche, I thought I had found gold. I was like, yo, this is the niche that like no one's discovered. I hadn't seen a lot of lead gen sites. Like, this is the niche, man. I'm going to go vertical, baby. So me being a knucklehead and being lazy, I didn't do that good of research. And I just started building these basement waterproofing sites, building. And I ended up with a lot, like 70 to 100, maybe more. I can't even remember. I just got rid of all of them. Okay. And I didn't do the due diligence. I didn't find out like, hey, am I actually going to be able to rank this? What's my cost per click? Like, I didn't even really know that much about the niche, and I just started building. And it's because I accidentally stumbled into a decent city, got a decent deal, made okay money, and thought, hey, I'm on to gold. Okay, so don't do that. Number one lesson is whatever niche you go into, make sure that it's tried and true, okay? And make sure that your process of hey, this city is, of determining what cities you should go to. Make sure it's a sound process, because I've taken trainings, I've done programs, I've done all these things, and they say, hey, if XYZ box are checked, you're safe to just build. No, that's not true, okay? There are specific criteria that you need to, and I'm pausing because I have a friend that says criteria, okay? There's specific criteria that you need to follow in order to be confident to go into a city, okay? And I do teach that. If you guys aren't in my Facebook group, my Discord channel, we talk about a lot of that. But there's criteria you need to follow. So number one is making sure that you have a good due diligence market research process, okay? Anyway, so what happened? A second mistake we did is we did a pay per lead deal. And this is still back in the day when I thought pay per lead was the greatest thing ever. And guys, I understand that like why people think pay per lead is so great, because in theory, and I'm not going to spend the whole time talking about this, but in theory, pay per lead is gangster, man. It's awesome, right? I'm going to send them as many leads as I can at an X amount of money, let's say $100 a lead, and I can make unlimited money. And you know what? In theory, that's correct. But the problem is we're dealing with humans, and humans have a threshold. Humans have a point where they're not going to want to pay for any more leads, or they're going to have a point where they're going to start blaming you because they're not closing enough jobs and it's your fault, not theirs, etc. Okay? So number two lesson, don't do the pay per lead model. Don't do it, okay? I've been down the path. There's so many downsides to it. You're up, then you're down, then you think you're on top of the world, then you think that you're going to lose everything. Oh, don't do pay per lead, okay? That's lesson number two. So I had a pay per lead deal in the wrong niche and in the wrong city. And here's the problem with pay per lead. And so what we were doing is we were getting a little bit of organic, but because I hadn't done the due diligence, it wasn't that much. So I was just running ads, not paying attention to my cost per click, whatever. All I could see is that, hey, I'm sending over this many leads at this price, and we're making this, and I'm spending this, and as long as I'm making more than I'm spending, I'm good. That was like my thinking, okay? That was the thinking, right? Well, here's what happened is and this is lesson number three, is we chose a company where the business, it wasn't a great business, and the business owners couldn't close. So here's what happened is we sent all these leads, right? We're like pumped. We're just counting the money. We're like, dude, 150 leads, let's go, right? 150 times 100, that's 15K, right? And I don't remember what we spent on ads, but it was significant, okay? We weren't making 15K. Let me just say that. Not even close, okay? But we were making more than we were spending on paper. Well, the problem was, this is lesson number three, is we weren't careful about the business that we chose. And the business that we chose was not a great business. The business owners didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to close. And little did we know, this business was failing. Okay. And there was a lot going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about. So what happened is this bill accrues, and we started, by the way, after this, what we started doing is charging bi-monthly because of this, but we let a month's worth of leads accumulate. Okay, so we had 150 leads sent to this company, and we sent the invoice. Okay, well, no money. No money, no money, no money. At the time I had my grandma, of all people, who's awesome. She was our bookkeeper. And she was working at the office, and she can be very, very, very vicious. And I love it. So she started calling these people and was like, hey, you guys owe us $15,000. And like, we've sent you all these leads. We need the money. And okay, sounds good. Well, let me talk to the owners. Like, this is between, bookkeepers or secretaries. But then this next day is the same story. And then a couple days later, it's the same story. And I'm like, okay, look, I start getting involved. Hey, we're not sending you any more leads until you pay, right? Well, finally, a couple weeks later, we hadn't sent any leads, which now we're scrapping to find another client because these leads are just they're worth nothing because we don't have a backup because we're exclusive with them. We get a call from of course, not the owner, but the bookkeeper secretary lady. And she goes, I've got some bad news. She's like, this thing happened. I'm not going to share the thing. If it was true, it was terrible. But one of the owners is going to jail. Okay. You're like, dude, you pick some winners, right? One of the owners is going to jail. We are dissolving the company, and we're actually filing bankruptcy. So there's no money. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. There's no money. Like, literally no money. And guys, for some of you watching, you're making a lot more than that. Like, you're like, okay, that's not that bad. It sucks. Guys, when you are a new business, and you have $15,000 that just basically evaporates, man, does that hurt. And there was nothing we could do. There was nothing we could do. What are we going to go after? They literally filed chapter whatever it is, 7, I don't know what it was. They filed. We hired a company, whatever those companies are called, where they basically go and go after them. I can't even, I'm having the freaking brain thing, whatever. The companies that go after, you say, hey, go and get my money, blah, blah, blah. They take a cut. We hired one of those companies, and for 2-3 months, they chased it. Sure enough, that company filed bankruptcy. We got $0 from this deal. Okay. And so a couple things, as I've shared, is make sure, number one, you go into the right niche. Make sure you have a good due diligence process, because if we'd had a good due diligence process, then we would have been getting most of those leads organically, or not even organically, but our cost per click would have been much lower. Guys, we were running like a $20 cost per click. And if you don't even know the significance of that, it's like 3, 4, 5 times what I'll even touch now. Okay. My average cost per click, I've spent $1.22 million on Google ads. My average cost per click is less than $5. And I was spending like 20. Okay. So it actually should be a lot lower, but I'm mixed. Like, this is some of these deals, it's $20 a click. Anyway, the third piece, don't do pay per lead. And then lastly, guys, if you do not choose a good business, if you're not careful about who you partner with, I had this conversation with my my students in my paid program yesterday. I said, guys, if you do not take your time in selecting a partner, it will come back to bite you, because if they don't make money, they will cancel. They will blame you. And just because somebody is willing to give you money doesn't mean you should take it. Guys, learn from my mistake. Don't go freaking do these mistakes. Learn from them. Let's go make some money.